Welcome to ESI Focus. I'm your host Adam Fitch, and in this episode I speak to Travis Anderson, the Global Vice President of Apparel and Commerce at Team Liquid, obviously one of the biggest organizations in the industry. So this is the final episode looking at apparel in ESI Focus. I hope that this kind of rounds off a really holistic, wide-ranging view of the state of apparel and the future of apparel and the different ways you can approach things in esports. So considering we've already touched on working with teams, establishing your own brand, and entering the space from a sports background with Puma, this is a really a look at apparel from the team-based view and everything that Team Liquid are doing to separate themselves from the market while trying to keep the largest audience available to them and not only attract their own fans but perhaps esports fans in general, and to make clothes that people outside of esports would happily wear. So I hope you really enjoyed this episode. Travis was a lovely guy, gave a lot of insight, even though he is quite new to the industry. He's clearly done his research and he's in a great role to establish such knowledge. So I hope you get a lot from it. Of course, feel free to join in on the conversation online on social media. I'm Adam Fitch. This is for Esports Insider, and there's Travis Anderson who's joined me today. So you can find us all on social media and let's have a conversation. I think if these podcasts can inspire some sort of dialogue around whatever topic we choose to go at, and obviously apparel is the theme at the moment, then I think they've done a great job. But nonetheless, I hope you get something from this episode, as always, and I appreciate any and all feedback. We really do want to make this the best possible product for you, so of course feedback is welcome. Thank you very much and take care. Travis, thank you so much for joining me today on ESI Focus. That's how I'll start things off. I just want to thank you for taking the time to speak to me.
You're welcome. Thanks, and nice to speak to you today.
So with this kind of block of discussions we're having as part of ESI Focus, this is all about apparel. So obviously you're the best person to speak to on like a team front, and especially with the apparel focus. So I just want to get kind of like your background in apparel and what the journey was leading into joining Team Liquid.
Sure. So I've been in the apparel business for, close to 20 years now. Started out creating my own brand, and I guess I grew up skateboarding and came from the whole streetwear and skate kind of foundations, and from there created a brand. And I'm originally from South Africa, as you might hear, and that was in South Africa. I worked with a company that was a large licensing group, and we licensed the likes of Fox Racing, Quicksilver, Globe, Volcom, Lee, Wrangler, and a number of other products there. So I didn't go through a traditional schooling background in apparel, but kind of learned through practice, and learned through a great amount of people there. And from there, the brand I'd launched grew quite progressively internationally, and actually in the UK as well, and in the USA. So in 2008, I immigrated to the USA through a work visa program, and set up my business here, and we grew from there. The brand grew very well, and beyond that, we started then incorporating private label business with retailers such as Topshop, Selfridges, Urban Outfitters, to name a few, and Nasty Gal. And then when things started evolving over the last 3 to 4 years, I progressively then became involved with assisting brands and influencers / celebrities in the apparel space, people who wanted to really elevate their programs from being a merch program and develop it into a full apparel brand, I guess, because we brought the expertise of being able to produce product beyond traditional tees and hoodies with just logos placed on it. So I brought that element, and then also the experience that we had developed through our supply chain, our network, and just trial and error, school of hard knocks, learning those things along the way. And then developed that and launched those through e-commerce platforms and global platforms as well. So about 2 years ago, I assisted in launching Justin Bieber's brand,
Okay.
and that we launched. We did two pop-ups, one in Hong Kong and one in Shanghai, and then did the e-commerce launch as well. And from there, last year I was in touch with the Team Liquid guys and assisting them on some products, and myself and Mark Milanov connected, who's the CEO of Team Liquid, and we got on really well. And he had, I liked a lot of the synergies, and I liked the energy of the Team Liquid brand and company. I felt it was very progressive, and it's very much a family style approach to growing the business. And I just saw a good synergy in us being able to work together and do great things, even beyond launching e-commerce and products. We have a 5-year plan that we're going to roll out, and I can't really go into too much detail, but we got a lot of exciting things in store, and I'm very grateful and excited to be part of the Team Liquid family and team. So,
well, quite like a varied amount of experience there, but obviously leads to you being really good at what you do. That's obvious. So it's obviously a really good thing for Team Liquid to bring you in. And so when you first observed the esports landscape through the apparel lens, what did you think? Did you think there was it was a really clean slate here, to really innovate, or did you find that it was quite far along and to be seen as far ahead as the competition? It would require a lot of work. How did you kind of assess it? Where did you find it?
For me, it's I always liken it to skate and action sports in the 90s, when skate first started. It was very underground and was kind of self-done and DIY. It kind of came from that mentality, which was probably its best at that stage, the most creative stage. And then I saw, as skate and surf and snowboarding or whatever other action sports kind of evolved, we saw a lot of people with more experience and true, either be it apparel industry knowledge, evolve into those industries, and they started becoming full-fledged brands. And I kind of see esports in the same space right now, where it's still, I would say it's quite early. I wouldn't say it's at the beginning stages, but I'd say it's probably in its infancy, in the sense of the potential, because what is evolving here are lifestyle brands, and brands that are stretching beyond esports and encompassing the entire lifestyle that goes around esports, be it music, art, fashion, sneaker culture. And I see all those things being put into a big blender right now, and this product being in an evolution, where I think it's no longer going to be so just, this is just esports apparel and it's only, focused on gamers. I think it will evolve into people that encompass the entire lifestyle. So, kind of what Travis Scott did with Fortnite and so forth. There will be a lot of, cross-pollination between all these areas. And so with that said, to answer your question, I do believe it's in its early stages, and still very exciting. I think there's so much that can be done with it from a creative, collaborative, and product level, even beyond, establishing and growing these brands.
And one thing I've tried to observe it myself. Obviously, not very experienced in apparel. I'm very much a writing background, but I've taken a look recently. Obviously lined up to speak to yourself and the other guests that we got on the podcast. So one thing I've noticed is not even major organizations don't have the core products available all the time just for fans to get into, and then you see certain organizations really going into the hype beast culture and approach, where it's very limited drops, quite high prices, building up the hype, and then sell things that way, and then you see it on StockX and stuff afterwards. So there's quite a disparity between like the approaches organizations are taking. And I'd love to get kind of your take and how you see the strategy at Team Liquid at the moment, in terms of apparel, of course.
Yeah, I think our approach is largely a hybrid between the traditional model and the kind of hype street culture model. The limited quantity drop has its pros and cons. It can be very alienating to fans that that aren't necessarily quick to respond or don't have the available funds at that point in time. So I feel something that kind of balances both elements that still creates brand value. The whole FOMO experience is still relative. Um, with this year being such a disruptive and evolutionary year for society in itself, I don't know how long that model will last, because I see kind of like a kickback against it with where it becomes elitist and also kind of bougie, where you have to be the kid dropping like 2 grand on like a Supreme hoodie
Exactly,
to
yeah.
be favored and cool, where that kind of goes against everything that the brand's built out against, and I'm all for the kind of blend with fashion culture and all of that, but at the same token, those are all the things that we kind of all were against. And brands like Palace and that are quite great in the sense that they take the piss against those things while still being involved in it. So I think if you don't take yourself too seriously and kind of go out there and still putting out good product and are there for the right reasons, I think the limited drop thing can still work. Um, us ourselves personally, we just want to try balance it and make sure that we're still offering a good retail experience and not alienating anybody and still being approachable as a brand. So I guess to each its own, but that's we're very much going down the middle with it.
Oh, that makes complete sense. Like best of both worlds, right? And in terms of esports, it's interesting because it's not entirely global yet. Like there are some places that are not quite caught up, but like in general, it's a very international and widespread industry where just because you're a European organization, for example, or you've got a North American team, you can have supporters definitely from, say, South America, Latin America, from little old England or something like that, So with that in mind, you've got to cater to that entire audience if you really want to unlock the support and the revenue that is like essentially available to you if you can offer the services there. So how do you like go about that, or is it a case of just making sure we serve our core audience in our particular region first, and then we'll expand out once we got that sorted? Like how do you kind of balance that?
So we're actually very receptive to that, because Team Liquid has a huge audience in Brazil and Latin America, in addition to other Southeast Asian territories and Asian territories. So our current approach to that right now is that we're setting up domestic fulfillment and working with local partners there to create a global strategy where we will be offering local stores to supply the Team Liquid product at within local currency and at domestic shipping rates without the duties and taxes. That's definitely a work in progress and something we're working towards, but we're quite far down the line on it, and hope to be rolling some of it out this year. But yeah, we definitely considering fans on a global level, and definitely not only thinking about the Western world or the traditional e-commerce markets. Yes, we will service and grow and perfect those, but we're very much considering that we're a global brand and looking to maintain and grow that.
That makes complete sense. And like when it comes to both like sports and esports, like it's very tribal and territorial almost, where like you support your club and that's it. Like you're not going to see a Barcelona fan buying a Manchester United jersey, for example. So like you don't expect to see a Cloud9 fan like repping Team Liquid. But like there's a huge kind of audience that you could be tapping into in that case if you could create items that maybe it's not the team they support, but it's still really cool items of clothing that they would like to wear, whether they're just showing support to esports as a whole or it's just a nice piece of clothing. Is that something you considered, or do you very much just cater to Team Liquid fans with the things that you put out?
No, I think you're 100% correct. I think we're definitely looking at this as a global market and not necessarily just insulated to Team Liquid. Again, I use the example from skate and surf, where you look at a brand like Vans, which has its roots in skate and surf, but everyone who wears, well, not everyone, I'd probably say 80% of the people that wear Vans and don't surf or skate.
I was definitely guilty of that.
Yeah, it's definitely a lifestyle brand, and I see these new emerging brands growing into lifestyle brands where people will see a good product that encompasses this new kind of, I don't want to use the word generation, but this new, I guess, movement that is growing and evolving, and people are looking to align themselves with that, whether it's associated with a team or not, which is why, again, I believe it's so important not to alienate yourself from anybody or to be too egotistical with your approach as a brand. I'm very much all about the social and all-encompassing brand approach and not the elitist approach. So yeah, I think we're definitely looking at it with the eyes that you mentioned.
And while I haven't spoken to everybody who's in charge of like Apparel or all the organizations, right, I have to imagine Team Liquid isn't alone in recognizing the opportunity there. So I guess with that in mind, it seems like there's potentially quite a few entities competing to really get the foothold over the majority of the esports market. So I mean, with that in mind, I guess you have to make sure that Team Liquid stands out from the rest, right? And that's a whole thing on its own. How do you go about doing that?
That's a very good question. Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. It was one of the first things I tackled this year, was really setting ourselves up with an identity that stood apart from other teams.
Yeah.
Where, say, a certain team has gone after like the, party bro, or you're kind of like, that kind of culture, or someone's going after the hypebeast culture. Mm-hmm. I feel we're positioning ourselves as a very professional yet still relevant brand, and kind of laying true to its European roots in the sense of styling and imagery that we're trying to convey across with the photography and product styling. So to almost some degree, I mean, I don't want to use the word preppy, but to some degree a little cleaner. I think it's very important that each brand stands apart, and that we're not trying to mimic anybody, because there's only a place for one kind of personality in the room with this in this kind of industry, in my belief. As it evolves, sure, there will be people trying to kind of imitate and do what others are doing, and everyone's watching everybody right now, with every drop that comes out or what everyone else does. I think we're very much on our own path at this moment, and have a clear vision and strategy of what we stand for and what the identity is that we're going to portray. But yeah, it's a very interesting time. I think it's like kind of, watching teenagers evolve into adults, and what's this guy going to land up being like, So I think everyone's trying to find their own identity at this moment in time, with it being such a young space, as far as brands.
Yeah, and as well as having, it's a young space for brands, and it's also a very young audience, but the audience isn't quite as male dominated as we once thought back in the day, and there seems to be a huge disparity between the amount of female women fans, girls, women, dependent no matter their age, and the items that are available to them. It doesn't seem like they're accommodated very well. Was that something you prioritized a lot, making sure that your clothing was accessible for all? Because we've discussed obviously reaching the maximum amount of audience available, and that's obviously something you got to consider as well, right?
Yeah, that's a very valid point. Yeah, and especially on a global level, it varies so much the demographics between male and female audiences. As in China is pretty much it's equal. As far as the ratio between male and female players and audience. Whereas in the US and Europe, it's still largely male, but the female audience is growing dramatically, and I feel if it's not serviced or not provided to, it won't grow. So our strategy has very much been an all-inclusive approach across every aspect, be it race, gender, age. We're very much looking to provide a brand that is approachable, to all people across the world. So yeah, we will be growing our female business and broadening our offering, and have a few exciting things coming out the latter part of this year that will show that.
No, that's awesome, and it's great to hear that, because again, like I've seen when organizations really do prioritize making sure that it's available for all, like the response is great, and people, women just seem to be grateful to be able to rep their team. Or I saw like FlyQuest, for example, did it last year, and like people who didn't even support FlyQuest, like industry figures and fans of other teams, went and bought it because it's like, oh wow, it's kind of like novel, which is bad really, considering esports is like 20 years old, perhaps longer, depending on how you look at things. Like it's just seeing that kind of response to it kind of opened my eyes as to like, oh wow, okay, maybe it is a lot worse than I imagined, because I'd never really looked into being an ignorant man who has everything available to him. So yeah, it's definitely something I wanted to touch on. Obviously not trying to throw you under the bus, but it's great that you are is top of mind for you, and you're putting steps in place to ensure that you're encompassing everything. And I've got a question, right? And you may disagree with me, and it's probably an unpopular take, but I think I do think it's an unpopular take. But I don't see that gamers are the most fashionable bunch in the world, right? When you're gaming all the time, like you want to be in comfortable clothes, not like leather trousers or whatever's out there, like you want to be comfy. You sat there in joggers and stuff like that. And with that in mind, how do you create clothing that's cool and appeals to those who are like fashion forward and style forward, but also accommodate like the core audience of gamers? Like that seems like a real challenge to me. Maybe I'm thinking of it the wrong way. I certainly don't work in the apparel side of things, so I could be just really ignorant.
No, not at all. It's a valid question too. I think it's again, not to use the word again, but it's kind of like a balancing act, where I think you have a very traditional audience who don't really care, and are more focused on comfort and functionality of the product. So with us, it's about balancing the offering. But then again, you have a new, or I guess not necessarily younger, but an evolved audience that do care what they look like, and outside of gaming, maybe go out and get dinner with their friends, or go hang out, or go to clubs, or or whatever.
Just
and
normal
got
people
girlfriends.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, normal people stuff, and and they've got girlfriends they got to impress as well. So you don't want to go roll out there, looking all haggard and stuff. So I think it's definitely a balancing act of the two. So I think from our end, we've brought in fabrics that are very streetwear. We've gone with the heavyweight dry hand, fleece and terry and jerseys, and then again we've also brought in very very soft, traditional, like, zip hoodies, for example, which are maybe not deemed cool at this point in time, but may come around. But to the traditional gamer, zip hoodie is great because you're sitting there, you don't want to pull it over your head and take your headset off, whatever. You can just zip it off or zip it open, and it feels a lot cooler. You want that to be, soft and comfortable, and you want to chill. So, we've got a few fabric bases that we're offering across there, and also, we're going with the kind of crazy design level to like the more subdued stuff that is just like, for lack of a better word, loungewear or just kind of at home wear. And COVID, presenting that self as a new lifestyle as well has also, made people shop around that as well. I know
For sure.
loungewear sales went through the roof for the last 2 months. So that's definitely something, again, we're looking to cater to both aspects of that. I mean, if you cater to one aspect, you're either not going to evolve as a brand, and you're going to be stuck with a bunch of, zip hoodies and t-shirts that are in like, I guess, not in a perceived value sense. And then if you go the other end, you alienate your core fans. So yeah, I think offering both is important, and along the way, educating people about, what apparel serves and why it serves that way, because you may have customers who buy something and then don't understand why it's that way and may have a negative approach to it. So I feel it's our job while we're on this journey to provide some sort of, I guess, education, and that's in a non-derogatory way, but some sort of informative, information about clothing and fabrics and fits and garments and why they're that, and, why this is relevant, and things like that. So yeah, we're looking to really create a destination that serves all of that, for the esports culture and even the non kind of endemic audience as well.
I tell you what, after listening to all of this, I'm so glad I'm not in your position, because it sounds very difficult to get this right. Because your ambitions are so wide ranging, which is great, of course. It means there's so much to concentrate on, and I think inherent with a balancing act is the effort of ensuring things are still balanced, and that means perhaps changing things and tailoring things, and to do that you need to monitor how things are going. It sounds like a very like all-encompassing, very time-intensive, and very like detail-oriented like process from top to bottom. So yeah, I'm definitely not jealous of your position. I'll be completely honest with you. That is insane. And then there's a whole other aspect that we haven't even touched on yet, and that's like apparel for your actual players, right? Because we see a lot of jerseys. Sometimes they've got numbers on the back emulating sports, and there's not a lot, in my opinion, there's not been a lot of innovation there, though I don't think there's been a ton of research as of now into what really is the best way to tailor these jerseys to the needs. Well, not just jerseys, but joggers, everything else they wear, to the needs of the players who are practicing for, say, 8 hours a day and in long, intensive matches and high pressure and such, So, how far along do you think we are in the iteration of ensuring that players are in the gear that enables them to be their best? Do you think we've already sussed it out, or is it a long way to go? Or is it somewhere in between, perhaps?
I'd say, again, this is also, again, a major focus for us, and there's a lot of work to be done in this area, because there's a number of challenges around it, in the sense that there's been a lot of customization to jerseys that have been offered to customers, which they thoroughly enjoy, and so you wouldn't want to take that away from them. But in order to do a customized jersey, you have to relinquish some of the bells and whistles that come with maybe like a more premium jersey, or with regards to fabrics and trims and things like that. So there's a bit of like give and take there. But as far as our core professional players, we're experimenting and developing different jersey fabrics that have say cooling factoring or functionality to them, looking at adding gusset elements that provide more comfort, and really looking to take the jersey product to a whole nother level, to a professional level. So again, that's something like you said, you don't envy what we do. That is,
Yeah.
I would say, out of everything, that would definitely be the most challenging that we have
Right.
at the moment, because there's been this like instant culture where it's been very accessible and customizable
There we go.
to which has provided that convenience where that's very difficult to do with a premium professional product. So yeah, we're still working on that solution. I mean, our jersey products now are fantastic, and for what we offer, I think they're some of the best in game at the moment. But by no means are we resting on our laurels. Like we're looking to take that to the next level, and I think you'd be able to start seeing that as of 2021, early 21, our New Jersey will be on another level or an element of it, as we bring through some of the new innovations that we're working on.
Oh, but between those innovations and the work that Complexity and We Are Nations are going to do with the lab, which they just announced, I'm really intrigued to see the kind of future of apparel in a performance sense. I think through everything I've spoken about with people on all aspects of performance, it seems like it's almost an untapped market in esports, and therefore I feel there's so much potential there, and it's something that's perhaps not really spoken about enough. So I'm genuinely excited on a personal level and professional level to see where that goes. So I'll be keeping an eye out for early 2021. For sure. Also, if it's that good, I might need to grab it myself. So I'm actually good in my own gaming sessions, because as I get a bit older, natural skill is dropping off. So I need any kind of boost I can get at this point. So drop me a message when they're out, and I'll happily buy a couple. And if
Yeah,
they're really that great.
we'll hook you up with the unfair advantage. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think it's something. Like you said, is an untapped market in the sense of no one's really pushed the envelope that much. Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see what comes out.
And I wanna obviously I wanna go to the Marvel stuff. Like on a person, I literally have Marvel tattoos on my arm, so I am a big Marvel fan.
Ah, sweet.
Like for real.
Yeah.
So like when I saw that this deal had been made, obviously Marvel's real entrance into esports, I was like, oh damn, okay, let's see how this goes, because I never know how activations are going to be in esports. Sometimes they're all encompassing and obviously really like a symbiotic, really collaborative effort, and sometimes it's just slapping a logo on things. And I think it's fair to say that Team Liquid and Marvel have not just gone, we'll partner, so Marvel's in esports and we're partner with Marvel, that seems cool. We'll slap Marvel's logo on the jersey and we're done. Like what you guys at the organisation have done is great. I'd love to kind of speak about. Well, I think literally at the time of the recording, there's some new things dropped today, so I'd love to speak through those a little bit, and how you found the fan reception to obviously these Marvel themed jerseys and products.
Yeah, the reception's amazing. Actually, funny enough, we've just done a drop today that drops at 12 o'clock, and the response has been phenomenal. So, and we were really proud on on how these came out, and how the site looks with them. So, yeah, our relationship with Marvel is a very fortunate one, and we have a great relationship and are expanding it on a global level now. So we'll be rolling that out on our Chinese sales platform and in Brazil as well. In addition to really broadening the lifestyle aspects of it as well. So we'll be launching other categories, other product categories, other garment categories, a lot more kind of streetwear inspired pieces as well, which you'll see towards the end of this year with some great drops that we're working on. And then we've got a very full roster for next year on the Marvel side of things. So yeah, for us it's a key relationship, and makes so much sense. I think, like I said, with our brand positioning, the two brands make so much sense in the philosophies of the brand, the philosophies of the characters, professionalism and our approach to that. So yeah, we looked at it as a long-term positioning with Marvel, and are excited to roll out upcoming concepts. But go check out the one today, and yeah, man, I'm stoked to see that you got some tattoos there.
Yeah, for real. Like, I literally started writing so I could write about the Marvel films and TV series and stuff. So if it wasn't for Marvel, and I guess DC, but mainly Marvel, then I would not be here right now speaking to yourself for this podcast. Bluntly, like, just how things have worked out. So that's been really cool to
Super
see.
cool.
I need to ask on a personal basis. This is very, very professional, very business. Like, which is your favorite like Marvel garment you dropped so far?
Wow.
The hardest
I
question
would
yet.
say, yeah, that is really difficult. I would say it's probably the new jerseys, but actually my favorite stuff is probably the stuff that's upcoming, which I can't really tell you
Of
about.
course.
But we've got a collection that we've been working on with a great designer from the kind of streetwear space, and I'm very excited about the stuff in there. We've got some, technical outerwear pieces and things like that would be my favorite upcoming. But to date, would be the new jerseys that we dropped today. I think our team did a fantastic job with them in the way that they look, and the whole creative direction on it is amazing.
For sure, and obviously this deal opens up Marvel to kind of a new market in a sense where, like, obviously they get access to Team Liquid and larger esports market, but there's also the flip side of that. Like, have you seen a lot of response from purely Marvel fans who may not even know about esports, who think, okay, this is cool, or is the reception and interest mainly been on the esports side of things?
I would say to date, largely on the esports side of things. I think we're still yet to be discovered by non-endemic Marvel fans, but we're actually broadening that strategy at the moment, because I feel we have such great products that could appeal to them across the board. Whether they didn't know what esports was or what Team Liquid was, I think the product level will speak for itself on what we're unveiling down the line. That I think they will just naturally be drawn towards it, alongside a strategy that we are implementing as well.
Okay, that makes sense completely. I mean, yeah, there's obviously another opportunity there to access a whole ton of people. So it seems like a very good partnership, not only for Team Liquid, but for like esports as a whole. Like, it's insane. And to the kind of closing topic, because I respect your time and my own, obviously, like, to kind of round things out, I guess. Tell a little bit of an anecdotal story. As a kid, I was a football fan, as you typically are in the UK, right? And you're probably forced into it by your family when you grow up, and that's how it is. I have like very fond memories of walking down the high street in town and going to a sports shop and getting the latest jersey from my team, with my own name on the back, my own number, like that kind of personalization. And in esports, yeah, it doesn't seem like we're quite at the point where personalization like that is really a thing. There are some organizations kind of making apparel and limited drops around moments that are happening and narratives that they're telling, but we're not seeing like super hyper relevant, almost. How do I put this? Like, going beyond like the basics and going beyond, like, say, if we have like a spring drop and a summer drop and all these kind of things, we don't see like really hyper personalized and experienced or moment based drops. Do you think that's something we'll see a lot in the future? This is probably the part where you tell me Liquid's been doing it for ages and I'm just ignorant. But overall in esports, I haven't seen it too much. Where obviously we see it in sports, but sports is however many times bigger than esports. So perhaps I'm just expecting too much for the stage we're at.
Well, we currently do offer a customized gamertag option on the jerseys, within the USA, and we will be launching that in China in the next few weeks.
Awesome.
So we offer that. Beyond that, we still, like I explained before, there are some challenges in the customization process that make it a little bit challenging for other aspects of it, like again, like the Nike, the Nike customizations are, you can go customize your colors, your laces, and things like that. I don't think operationally and supply chain we're quite there yet, but we are, like I said, we're constantly evolving and trying to, push ourselves and the envelope in the whole customer experience. But currently, yes, it's just the customized Gamertag that we do offer, which is received very well, and we offer that on the Marvel pieces too. So I think we're looking to look at how else we can customize that product or provide more to it. But it's definitely a work in progress. I don't think it's something. I think you have to be a larger company with the right resource to be able to do that, and I don't believe there's many esports businesses that are that apparel focused at this moment in time. But yes, we offer to some degree it, and plan to expand it more. So
awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of like that's one way of signaling where esports is. When we start seeing those things, I'm like, okay, now it's a really, really big deal. Because as you say, like it takes a lot to even get those things in place and run them well. And obviously, if you want to do something, you want to make sure you can provide a good experience and be on top of it. And the last thing I want to just discuss is kind of related to that, and it's creating like apparel and merchandise around players. And obviously the players are the products of esports. Without the players, there's literally nothing, right? And there are players that stay at organizations for a very long time. There are players who are really popular but kind of come and go, and maybe they're in a turbulent time in their career, so they can't quite find a permanent home. How, like, do you do a lot of player-based stuff? Is that what you would like to do, or do you find like contracts seem to be quite short in esports at the moment? Just how things are, is that like a limiting factor in what you can do on like player-based garments and drops and such?
Yes, it's something we just actually did. We recently did a drop in June with a player collection that sold out incredibly fast, and had an amazing response. Yeah, the response was phenomenal. Like we actually exceeded our expectations. So yes, we definitely are rolling out more. I think there's a lot of questions around that. It's not necessarily, well, yes, the contract element is obviously crucial, but it's also about the marketability, about does that player have a personal brand to themselves? Is there a specific identity you can build on? Because even though say a player could be exceptionally good at what they do, there's also an element of where personality shines, and we've seen that in other sports as well. So you say someone like Beckham, for example, or someone like that, where some players are way more marketable than the others.
Oh, I thought you were just going to insult David Beckham then, and I was going to cry.
No, not at all. No, definitely not. Yeah. So but I'm just saying that there's a sense of a marketability. So those are all the elements you need to take into account when you consider those collections. So they have to be quite strategic and not just like, throwing things against the wall and like kind of figuring out what sticks. So we obviously strategic and focused in how we roll this out, but we plan to do more based upon the success of the recent one that we launched. So I think that's really exciting for me as well, because you bring in that personality, that creativity into that kind of collaboration, and it opens up so much cool stuff that you can do, like things that you maybe never thought of, and just different artwork or different elements that may appeal to that player that they're excited about, and that's the fun part, so I'm looking to work with those a lot more.
Kind of like allows you to like mesh another brand with Team Liquid. Well, obviously, like if you're doing things for Team Liquid all the time, I'm not saying that's limiting, because there's brands out there that do so many different things. But I mean, in the terms of like you're working with one brand all the time, and obviously you choose how to define that and how to expand it and such. But bringing like a player's brand and marketability into that It seems to open up for me, from an outsider's perspective, seems like it would bring a whole other host of opportunities, while obviously being related to Team Liquid. So it's kind of like a really cool thing if that's a viable option to go down, you know.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. Like it's actually a lot of fun because it's very exciting. And yeah, it's like a new project, you know. So yeah, we love working on that stuff. And yeah, I mean, I guess all I can say is stay tuned. We got a lot of cool stuff coming out. So
Well, that's awesome. I for one will stay tuned for sure. I mean, after this conversation, well, even before it, I was really impressed with what Team Liquid's doing. But just seeing how mindful you are about everything, and perhaps like knowing the stage esports is at, like acting accordingly as opposed to knowing where it could be at or where it probably will be at in 10 years and like trying to get there way too quick and obviously things not going too well. But I just want to say thank you so much for joining me, for taking the time out to speak to me and for letting us have a bit of access into what goes on behind the scenes in terms of apparel at Team Liquid. It's been very insightful for me, and I'm sure it will have been for the listeners as well.
yeah, cheers. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on, and great meeting and speaking to you.
I really appreciate it. And of course, for those at home or in the office, well, you should probably be working if you're in the office, to be honest. But for those at home who've been listening, you can, of course, find ESI Focus literally everywhere. And if it's not on your preferred platform, then let us know. We're very early in this, and I want to make sure that we're satisfying all the needs out there. So, yeah, let us know. Give us some feedback. And that's great. So again, thank you very much for taking the time, Travis. I really appreciate it, and best of luck going forward. I'll be keeping an eye on it, especially the Marvel stuff, because yeah, I'm a nerd. But on a whole, it seems like really exciting times in the face of obviously quite a turbulent kind of situation globally right now. So it's great. Thank you again.
Cheers, man. Be well.